Hello, hello. Hope everyone's doing well today. It is Wednesday, May the 6th, and it's Q&A Wednesday, and we kind of always get some questions and whatnot, but we also like to pick a topic to kind of theme it around, and today we wanted to talk a little bit about kind of on the marketing theme of how we get our work seen and how we've kind of marketed ourselves so far. For those of y'all that aren't familiar with us, we live in very rural South Carolina. So it's 10 miles to the nearest gas station, grocery store. So it's, we're pretty far out here. Not a lot of people looking for custom furniture in cornfields. So we thought it would be a good topic to share with y'all. And yeah, so I'll do my little rundown. We're here Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Instagram Live. We also share these to YouTube afterwards, so search for Joseph Thompson Woodworks on YouTube. You can also catch Mary May at 1 p.m. Eastern Monday through Friday on Twitch. And I have a weekly live stream at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays with Women of Woodworking. So tune in with me tonight. And we have a guest planned and everything, so yeah. So let's see. Oh, jealous Canadian here. I want to be in rural Carolina. Well, if you're ever driving down I-95, holler at us. We are not far. It's starting to get hot down here. So we actually have a lot of Canadians that come through here. So yeah, cool. And that's actually where Joseph went to boat school was.
Yeah. British Columbia.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, hello. So... All right, so talking about how we get our work seen, I guess we'll just kind of like go through our timeline and talk about what's worked, what hasn't worked, what we've done before, and what we don't want to do again. So let's see. When we first met and started working together, we started out really doing, social media was just kind of like Facebook was just becoming really big and really popular and kind of open to the public. So social media was just kind of new to the masses. So we did kind of the traditional, we met actually. I was an assistant manager at the Charleston Farmers Market in Marion Square, and Joseph became a vendor. So that was how we originally met. So following along on the theme of markets and trade shows and things like that, that was kind of the first thing we really tried. So,
and that was the first thing
Ooh, we're paused. There you go. We're back.
That was the first thing I had tried before you too. So I had just come back.
Now, didn't you have like a little show in Ellery or something at the museum? Either way, that was like your first big like marketing thing you were doing.
I want to say that might have been before I went to Maine. So I think I had there was a small town, had a museum, and a friend of mine was he painted. So anyway, we did a joint show, and I had some.
It was over a decade ago,
yeah,
so I would give you a break.
I'm 40 something right
What did
now.
you have for breakfast? I'm just kidding. Oh, you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. So yeah, it was a small museum show. Had some pieces that I'd made. Yeah, but before that, so then I went to the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship in Maine and took that 12-week intensive, and pretty much that that was winter of 2008. So that next spring of 2009, I guess.
Wow, so over a year later.
Yeah, so that was Charleston Farmers Market where we met. And that was my first
That's right.
regular retail-ish type, where I was trying to sell something. The show was...
And like you were out there doing it too. It
That's
wasn't
right.
like you put it into a retail store either. You were out there.
Yes,
actively
I
selling
had my
it
own
yourself.
booth, and every Saturday for 9 months, right?
April through December.
Yeah. So that was my first go at trying to.
Well, you got yourself a wife.
I did. Yeah. So I had done was doing commission work when I came back from Canada. I was doing commission work and was basically in my shop. I'd gone to school, but as anybody who does this knows that your learning is while you're doing it. So basically, I was just trying to build pieces, and I had some pieces that I'd built. Took it to that museum show. Had was looking to get some orders. I think I got some business, more commission work out of that. Then went to Maine. Came back to do still to continue commission work, but then did the market to try to was cutting boards. I had my furniture there, but it was really trying to just make money during the week, or make stuff during the week to make money on the weekend, and then also to hopefully pick up
do some networking.
Yeah, networking and get more. At the time, that was my goal, was get commission work. Didn't think I was really going to sell any furniture, but I brought it. But
you did a couple times.
Yeah, I did. I ended up selling some, on the spot.
Quite a bit.
But mostly, I made cutting boards, made yo-yos.
That's right.
Made
yo-yos.
Just different stuff.
Like little soap dish,
sushi boards.
Stuff.
Just just stuff made during the week to sell on Saturday. Yeah. And it did well.
You did it for a couple of years.
Did it for a couple of years. It kind of, the point was to try to get established and then kind of move on.
Right. Well, that was why that was our intention with the market at that time, was to kind of provide a launching pad for businesses to kind of get started, and then, move to a brick and mortar or whatever they were going to move on to next, a food truck if they were a food vendor.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was a natural progression. It got to the point where you were spending more time making stuff to sell on the weekend than you were making furniture, and it was supposed to kind of be reversed. Like the market was supposed to, yes, bring in income, but also kind of bring more larger projects.
Right.
And which is, it was great that you had that much business, but it was starting to take away
It was. I wasn't.
What your ultimate end goal was.
That's right. When it comes down to it, it's whatever sells. And so cutting boards, there's a lot of chefs in Charleston. I was doing a lot of butcher block, pretty intricate design, butcher block cutting boards. And at that time, and they were selling for a good price. And kind of seems like nowadays everybody's doing them. There's CNCs available to more people. They're just pumping them out, and that's no knock on that. I just can't compete. Yeah. We can't compete with the CNC because I was basically making.
Nor did you really want to.
I didn't want to, and it was great to have some money, but that was not what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be making furniture, which there's part of both, but when that kind of slowed down, it's time to move on. So did get some really good clients that are still clients,
and some good lifelong friends.
That's right, and a wife.
So, but from there we kind of moved on to larger shows. So, oh man, I'll never forget our first big indoor show. It was American Craft Council Atlanta, and if y'all are familiar with trade shows, the ACC is one of the best, most reputable shows. People work their entire careers trying to get to that level, and here we are, just kind of never done anything like this before. We just walk into the convention center, and y'all, it was so sad. We had to borrow thankfully there was a very kind, what was she was like a weaver or some sort, knitter. She made clothes.
She had a backup set
vendor
of curtains.
had a whole booth
Yeah.
like backup. And it wasn't a small booth. It wasn't like a 10 by 10. This was a 10 by 20. So we had all the space. We had plenty of stuff to fill it, but it just looked like garbage.
So there was no backdrop, no lighting.
No lighting. We went to, that was at the Cobb Galleria, and there's a big mall across the highway there. So we went over there to like Sears and bought like house lamps and whatever we could find to kind of like decorate our booth last minute. And y'all, I mean,
Sears, they had house lamps and work lights.
It was
like clip-on work lights.
Y'all,
it was there was some panic.
woo.
Maybe.
But we had a great show.
Did have a great show.
So I don't know if people just felt bad for us, or it probably indicated to them that we were new, and since we clearly didn't know what we were doing, and so
we were like, this is the first show we could apply
and
to.
it did say new artist on the sign. It did say, because it would let you know if that was the first year you had been in that show.
We didn't get any sympathy buys, but I was hoping we would.
No. Oh my God, I still cringe when I think about
pretty
that.
Bad.
Yeah. So if you think you can't handle it, just think back to us in there with Sears house lamps in our booth. So, but from there, we learned quick, and from there, we built podiums. We did,
we spent a bunch of money, so we had to make it work. So to get there.
So, but that was the thing about those shows, is there was so much upfront cost. You would spend so much money on booth fees, so much money just getting there, having a place to stay, eat, gas, and not to mention your actual booth display takes a lot of time and effort and money if you want to make it look great, and look good with your product. So there's just a lot of effort involved, and we ended up we got to travel to some really cool places. We went to Chicago a few times. We went to Atlanta a bunch, and just like got to get out and diversify our customer base a little bit and just make connections all across the country. So from that, we've also, my bad, again made lifelong friends that we otherwise wouldn't have if we wouldn't have gone up there. And also, when you go a few years in a row, we also picked up a few collectors. So that was nice to have some people that were buying multiple pieces from us kind of year after year when we would go to these shows. And so that was one positive with it, but it's hard work. We have friends that is all they do. They plan out their year ahead of time, and they plan to be on the road, and that's what they do. And like, more power to them. The grind is just unreal.
Well, for most of my business was commission work, and so all of a sudden you got this show. You aren't building spec pieces during the year, and you really don't.
Sell. Yeah.
I mean, you've been filling orders, and all of a sudden you've got to have enough stuff
that's not spoken for,
right?
I
mean, I've sold a few of my mother's pieces that she lent me to take to the show.
She's like, "Here, take this," and then come home without it.
I had to sell it. So. Yeah. So that's another thing that's tough, or was tough for us. Just the way we had things set up.
Furniture is hard to do at those shows. Anything that's like super time consuming, very labor intensive is hard to do because it is retail. Yep. It is retail. How much can you turn and burn, basically, and that's just hard, really hard to do with handcrafted furniture, fine furniture, one-off pieces, and just physically also, I don't think I would have been able to handle many more shows like that. But that's not to say we don't do shows in markets occasionally still. Like, if there's like a one-off thing here or there, or it's a gallery show or something like that, it's every situation is different. But just as far as us, going to very expensive shows, doing very expensive trips, trying to sell very expensive furniture, it just got to be too much for us. And thankfully, you hopefully get to a place where you get enough work to where you don't have to go out and, spend all of that money up front just to get some more money back in and travel across the country, and it would,
And most likely not getting that money back in
immediately either.
Maybe 6 months down the road.
But that's the thing, is like, yes, it's great. You get a collector, they buy multiple pieces and spend a lot of money with you, but that's going to happen over a period of time. It's not like they're going to walk up to you and be like, here's 12 grand, just put this on hold for me. And whenever I see something, it just doesn't work that way. They want to, and they also want to walk away with it too. We found that a lot in those shows. Is yes, we would get some custom stuff, but a lot of people were there to walk away with something, I found. What did you have a different experience,
maybe so, but then it's such a small amount of people who go to the show who are looking to drop,
that are looking to walk away
with something and spend that much money.
They're coming looking for a certain thing.
Yeah.
It would be like ladies would come, I'm looking for a stool for my vanity. I'm looking, like they had something in their mind, and
those are the ones that walked off. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just had to kind of hope that you had what they wanted, or what they needed, what they were looking for. And that's hard to do with custom furniture. But I mean, at the same time, you also find those customers that are looking for those specific things. And so creating some of those relationships with those customers is certainly worthwhile.
Right.
Yeah. So from there, we kind of stopped doing shows, I guess, when we started having kids. That kind of threw a kink into things. Yeah. And I started doing PR and marketing full time, and just kind of, we backed off traveling there for a few years. And that is where I feel like social media and the internet has kind of stepped in.
Yeah.
Particularly for my business, having small items and things like that, people are very happy to place orders like that. And communication, it really comes down to communication. If somebody gets in touch with you, get back to them, be on it, I'm not saying harass them, but I feel like in this day and age, people are becoming more and more comfortable ordering even custom items over the internet, over email, over, Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. So
yeah, the question used to always be, are you local?
Yes.
At the shows?
Yes.
Which, I think at the time I was like thinking,
sometimes we were, sometimes we weren't.
That's right. And I'd be like, from
here.
We're in
right
Atlanta.
now.
Atlanta's not really local, but we're southeast.
Yeah. Regional.
Yeah.
So
Chicago,
no. That one was a stretch. That one was purely on, I just love this city and love being here and love my friends that are here. So I'm here. Hi. Buy my stuff. But no, what year? It was like 2014. We had been on Instagram for like a year or two at that point. And that year was the year, I think, you really took over the feed, and it really, you think, oh, you've got 37,000 Instagram followers, like you don't need to do marketing or whatever. But what I don't think a lot of people realize is, your influence, it's more important to have an impact on one person that's really wanting to do business with you than to have, 30,000 other followers that are just kind of interested in seeing what you're doing, but aren't really wanting to form that relationship and connection with you. So sometimes social media does feel like, like fishing in the dark. There are people out there that want to see your stuff. They've obviously signed up to see your stuff, but you're competing with algorithms, you're competing with all these other things. And I feel like back when Instagram really took off for us in 2014, there was a lot more organic growth. But that being said, now that we have grown, our audience here on Instagram and other places as a result, I feel like it's kind of like a permanent shop window, so to speak. Like people can come to your Instagram feed and see what you're doing. And we talked about this last week in the Q&A, but I feel like more and more people are stumbling upon you that way. And then the really interested ones are getting in touch and extending opportunities, or, trying to place an order or start a conversation about a custom piece, something like that. And we did like our first little like solo show together in 2014 at Dwelling in Charleston.
I think so.
We did have, it was like a month or two long show. in Charleston. So we did have started the year off with a retail setup, so to speak, for temporarily it was a home design store in Charleston on King Street. So, but the rest of it was social media, word of mouth. And here's where events come into play, but aren't necessarily going down the trade show route. So I think it's safe to say you've gotten quite a few students, customers, and opportunities from being a demonstrator at events.
Yes. I mean, just as much as anything else. Mm-hmm. I mean, more so than shows. You know,
for the return on investment.
Oh man.
You know.
Not that somebody finding you as a demonstrator, you know, but just as far as separate entities, I mean, that's been as good as anything. Mm-hmm. Demonstrating, which, you know, that came about through social media.
That's how we met Mary and got to be such good buddies with her.
That's right.
Mary May.
Yeah. And cost us nothing. I mean, well, you know, cost,
you know, a weekend and, you know, gas, food.
Yeah, pretty much gas and food. We were lucky enough to have a place to stay. You know, I mean, so.
But it
even
wasn't...
with that, it would be so much less than any of the other stuff. I mean,
yeah. Well, you know, that's why it's important to look at opportunities that aren't necessarily specifically retail opportunities. Or, I mean, that was the thing, is you weren't there to sell anything that weekend. You know, yes, we sold a couple of my books and some stuff like that, but really...
Yeah, but I didn't have anything. Yeah.
No,
you were... a booth set up.
Right.
Of stuff.
You had a bench set up, you brought your tools, you brought the project you were working on, you were there to work on your project and talk and connect. You weren't there to sell, necessarily.
Selling tools for
Lee Nielsen.
For Lee Nielsen, who I was demonstrating for.
So, yeah, so...
But then otherwise, it's just networking and, you know, meeting somebody, and then, you know, essentially just like everything else, selling yourself.
And that was incredibly valuable. You know, if you would have looked at that first glance and said, oh, I can't sell anything, there's no way for me to make a lot of money here on site, I'm not going to do that, you know?
Right.
But thankfully we gave it a shot, and seeing the other caliber of demonstrators they had there let us know that it was probably a good opportunity.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And plus it's Lee Nielsen. So, if you would have said no, you know, it's not something that I can really make money at, you know, what am I going to do spending, because it was like a 2 or 3 day event.
Sure.
And so it was a significant amount of time being spent, but looking back now, if you had not done that, you know, lots of opportunities that wouldn't have come about because of people you met and conversations you had and whatnot. So
I think even the last one is when the first time I talked to Sam. You know, I got more State.
Yeah. Talking about the Sam.
At school, yeah. I mean, I think we had some.
Sorry, y'all.
Had some mutual friends, but that's how I got
to know
in touch with my current boss.
So yeah, we're both instructors at the Charleston Woodworking School. If you can see his hat shirt he's wearing constantly now. He has multiple shirts and hats, don't worry.
Same shirt.
I do make him change. Anything goes in quarantine. Woo! Right? There we go. Now I won't be able to get it off. But anyway, and that's one thing that I teach my students, specifically in marketing, is that, you know, yes, you want to tie marketing directly to sales, and yes, you absolutely need to look at your cost and your return of investment. You wouldn't be doing good business probably if you didn't. But at the same time, not all opportunities can kind of be quantified immediately. Right. You know, you can't. Sometimes it takes 6 months to a year. Sometimes it takes several conversations. Sometimes it takes several events. Sometimes, you know, you go to an event out of town and people want to see that you're coming 2 to 3 years before they hire you for a custom job, because this is their home, this is their workplace, this is wherever they're having you do this. They want to know that you're reliable. and that you're consistent, and also just get to know you. Sometimes it just takes time. You know, people, especially these days, can have a really hard time spending a lot of money on something. I don't want to say it's definitely not frivolous, but it's not
a necessity.
Right. So,
it's a luxury item.
Sure. So you have to be mindful of that, and but also set your expectations accordingly. So, that's not to say that sometimes going to an event and not doing as well as you wanted to, doesn't feel like a gut punch, because it does. It definitely does.
My stomach still hurts.
Heartburn for life.
Oh, God.
Heartburn for life. It just, yeah. So now that we are here, I feel like we're kind of in an extraordinary situation with the pandemic. I mean, obviously, none of us have ever gone through anything like this before. But I guess kind of before the pandemic, what we were doing for business is, we both teach at the school. So being active in the woodworking community that way is huge. Sharing information, and just teaching, getting to know your students, getting to know the people that come through there. It's just that's been a very valuable resource for us, even just professionally in other ways, not necessarily like direct custom furniture sales. It's been a really great thing. And then also now, social media and the internet is a big thing, but you've gotten out there enough. Now people are kind of like coming to you. You do eventually start to pick up where people are like, all right, I've heard about you. I've seen you. You do start to get the emails and stuff come in, and opportunities. And then, it's a good situation to be in, but then it's also kind of like, you still want to be out there and engaged. You don't want to just kind of like, you can't just sit back on your heels and be like, all right, come to me, because it just doesn't work that way. You still have to be out and about doing things and being involved. And especially for me, because I'm, I don't even know if I can call myself a woodworker very much anymore. I'm more of like a woodworking enthusiast at this point. I still do a little bit here and there. So yeah. So that being said, my interests are really in the marketing side of woodworking, in the business side of woodworking, and kind of in the other things that come along with it, especially if you're owning a small business. Being engaged in those things like social media and live streams and things like that. I mean, everybody's pretty much depending on that right now. So this, schools are transitioning to offering virtual classes. So many woodworkers, a lot of them have been doing YouTube videos and live streams like that for a while, but I feel like it's just like really exploded, and this is a very interesting time to be looking. I feel like there's a lot of stuff to kind of like sift through, but it's amazing how much content and knowledge is probably being shared for free or at a very discounted rate right now. Yeah. Because we're trying new things. We're trying new things. There's adjusting that's happening, and we are definitely not the only ones that are having to adjust to this. So yeah. I feel rude. Like I haven't been like, hey, give me any questions. Tell us where you're from. But yes, say hello. Tell us where you're from, what you're working on. It's just amazing how I just do 28. Time flies. So,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, being out there with your work is really important. I'm not sure if just being out is not just as important. And I mean that as like, we don't go to bars, but places where you can network, meet people, tell people what you're doing. I see that being just as valuable. And that being said, that's not happening right now. So, this is kind of what we got. Mm-hmm. And, things will change, and, and we'll adapt, and everybody else will adapt and have a way. But
business will be done.
business
one
will be
way
done.
or the other.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
It'll just be interesting.
how it happens. I personally don't desire to do any more shows. They've left a pretty bad taste in my mouth. I never say never.
And it wasn't one particular show.
No.
It's just the whole
thing.
it just didn't work for us.
No, it was a lot of output, not much input,
Not what we needed.
Yeah. So it just didn't work for us, and I think there's people that it works for.
And that's what I said. We have friends that's all they do.
Yep.
All they do all year long. They take a certain amount of time off to make their product, and then they hit the road.
Yep. And do well.
And make a very good living off of that.
I just didn't work for me.
Just what?
And I don't know. That's could have just as much to do with the way I do things, or the way we've decided to do things, and
personalities.
Yeah.
And you know what? That suited us when we were younger and we didn't have kids, and it was kind of like, all right, if we do lose our behinds at the show, like we'll be okay. We'll still find a way to eat. And now I feel like we're not wanting to take as much unnecessary risk.
Well, there's just too many other things that have to be.
So personally, we're in a different place.
That's right.
Too. And I think also what we want to do is, as artists and creative professionals, we want to be making, and that traveling and stuff like that, like, it's wonderful, but it is very time consuming, and we're not, we're not interested in doing stuff as quickly as possible to make a buck. I know that sounds crazy in this day and age, but we're more interested in the process. We're more interested in the quality. We're more interested in the journey just as much as we are in the end result. Yeah. And when you disrupt that, you just, like you said, like the output it chokes that, and it's hard to do with shows.
That's right. And I mean, after a few bad ones, it's hard to, I will never financially recover from
Tiger King memes.
Oh boy. No, it is hard to swallow, but it's definitely, I don't regret trying it, because I didn't have another plan, honestly. And
honestly, we kind of stumbled into it.
That's right.
We were like, hey, let's try this. And like, seriously, the first show we applied to was American Craft Council, and we got it. Oh, we got into the one in San Francisco that year too.
Couldn't make that.
And we did, we backed off on that one.
Yeah.
But
and just people laughed at us when we told them. They're like, the first show you applied to? I'm like,
some people actually got pretty nasty with us.
Yeah, kind of.
They, I understand. Like, you've been working your whole career in these two.
We just we were
didn't know what they were doing
to it.
Well, I had only ever worked in like nonprofit arts, and so like to me, I hadn't gone to a lot of trade shows and things like that. I'd been to plenty of gallery shows and stuff, but so okay, awesome. We do have some questions coming in now. How beneficial is Instagram to your business? That's a great question, and we actually talked about that all last week's Q&A. So if you go back on our feed or onto our YouTube channel, you can actually go back and watch that. But the short answer is it's been huge. For me personally, and also for Joseph, I think he's not getting a lot of like, custom orders through DMs or anything like that. But there are like partnerships, there's other opportunities like the Lee Nielsen, the events and stuff like that. Yeah. And like you said a minute ago, this is all we've got right now. So I feel like very fortunate that we've invested into this as much as we have, because now this is all we've got.
That's right. So this is this is our audience. So right now we're in the woods. We're always in the woods, but we're in the woods now with nobody
You've
else.
been hanging out with me way too long.
Yeah. So
primo dad joke right there.
That wasn't even intentional. I was talking about just being in the woods. But
yeah, that's a dad joke.
Okay.
It's a pun.
All right.
So But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to
I don't know what I was talking about. I was just talking about we're in the woods where nobody's here, and I apparently made a joke. But anyway, that's our only audience. So yeah, we're gonna have to make the best of it until things change.
Well, and I think also this is our way of getting out there, but not being able to actually like go out. So, like I said before, we're in the middle of nowhere, and we can't expect people to just like come and find us. We have to get out there a little bit, and this is kind of our way of doing that. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that was a good question. But yeah, we talked about that all last week, so definitely go back and watch that. And I haven't mentioned even yet, I'm teaching 2 social media courses coming up at the Florida School of Woodwork. So at School of Woodwork is their handle, and if you go to their website, you can sign up. May 14th, I'm doing kind of a crash course social media for makers on Instagram. And then the May the 28th, they're both Thursdays, I'm doing social media for makers with a focus on Facebook. So both of those classes, I think you can get both classes. They're virtual classes, 2 for $25, so it's a good price, and 45 minutes. We're just going to sit down and kind of just break down everything and just make things more approachable. I think people get really overwhelmed when they get onto Instagram, and like I even still do too. I mean, they change features, they add things, they take things away all the time. So you know, it's interesting to me, and I feel like I always learn something too in these classes, because there are some tips and tricks people just figure out on their own, and it's like, hey, I hadn't thought about that before.
Or sometimes the students will ask you a question that makes you think about it and why you do things, and it's usually the case is anything that you teach. So it's always neat to see. I always learn a lot when I sit in your classes.
Even though you make fun of, you don't make fun of what I do necessarily. He's like,
I wouldn't.
Do I look dumb? So, no.
It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I leave it to you. I leave it to the experts.
It's a good thing you've been like my toughest client, because if I could get you on social media, I can get anybody on social media. Okay. So.
Can you speak?
Oh, you're welcome. Joiner by trade, but site joinery, making small things. Let's see. Yes, so Instagram I think is a good place to start for you. Etsy, man, I have such a weird relationship with Etsy. I still have an account, but I haven't used it to sell anything in years. I just felt like it was the Wild West of things, and I just had friends that were illustrators and designers that would have stuff ripped off constantly. I would have stuff ripped off constantly. I would work really hard to like try to make a certain photo look a certain way so it looked different, and then like 2 days later the next person's doing it, which whatever, I can't complain about that, but there was just not a lot of respect for copyright, you know. I have gotten off Etsy. Plus they charge too much. They were charging fees for every sale, a monthly fee, all this sort of stuff. What I recommend my clients do is to go to bigcartel.com and start a site with them, because I think it's as low as like they're $9.99 or something a month. You can have like a certain amount of products, and you can have your own site. You pay the 1 fee per month. You don't pay per sale or anything like that. I mean, it was too much. It was too confusing. So I actually got off of Etsy. But if you're just starting out and starting to try to get a following or something like that, Etsy does have its own built-in social network. You know, there are going to be people on Etsy searching for things that will find your work that way. Whereas if you have your own website, it's going to be all on you to drive the traffic. So there are positives and negatives to that. And what I've done to just kind of like meet in the middle is I've just kept my Etsy store, but have just like kept it closed, or no items in it or anything like that. And then I had my own Big Cartel site, which I've actually is on hiatus right now, but we use it for Joe's too. So like people can sign up for workshops and stuff like that on there. And it's a lot easier to be like, all right, bam, $9.99 a month. That's it. That's all I have to pay to have my store open. I don't have to calculate that into each product or anything like that. So that's my personal rant on Etsy. So yes. yes, that's a good place to start. And if you're just starting out, like you're on Instagram, you're already ahead of the game. You're already connecting with the woodworking community. I always recommend Instagram to my woodworker clients because this is just such a unique place that woodworkers have found to connect. I think we're very solitary people. So Instagram is very simple. You have your photo or your video and you have your caption. You're not saying, you know, what your favorite songs are, where you work, but you know, my views are not reflective of my employer, all that sort of stuff. It's just really straightforward and it's really good for creative work. And I actually have my own account that I just kind of like throw all of my creative weird stuff on just to see how it does. And I have a lot of fun doing that as a creative professional. It's kind of like my, all right, let's see what's out there and kind of see how it does. And that's been a lot of fun too. So having multiple accounts is also a possibility on here.
So is there a Etsy UK?
Yeah, there is
separate?
Etsy UK. Don't think we have
Probably Big Cartel.
Big Cartel. Yeah, I don't know if they have Big Cartel in the UK or not, but I would bet that they have something similar. I'm gonna find out because that's good information for me to know too, because I actually have a lot of students and followers, international students and followers. So I'd like to be able to direct them that way. But good luck. If you figure it out, let me know. But yeah, Etsy, that's the thing. You know, these sites, they get so big and you get so like, people get so dependent on them for their business. And it's just, you know, that was, you know.
It's easy to get lost, have yourself lost in this big sea.
Right.
I guess.
Right. And when they change their algorithms, then, you know, you're having to work around that for engagement. The thing I do like about social media though, is the data. You get that data immediately and they're able to provide you so much information. It's creepy, I know, but as a marketing professional, it has been a godsend because before, you know, you pitch a client, you know, hey, let's buy an ad in this newspaper and this is how much it costs and this is what their subscribers are, and that's it. That was like all the information you got, you know, just after your purchase. That was it. It was out there. You didn't, you know, you hope your phone rang, you hope you sold whatever you put out there, you hope you got some feedback, but it was just kind of all like fingers crossed. But now with social media, you can put stuff out there and you can see who's engaging with it, when they're engaging with your content, what they like to engage with more, what they don't like, what times, you know, where you live. You're down to your zip code on Facebook. On Instagram, you can still target by city and country and things like that. And, you know, the gender, the age, so much about your audience. So that's why I think social media is such a valuable tool for a small business owner. There's just so much to be learned from the information you gather. And then me as a marketing professional, it's really nice to go and look at the accounts, or, you know, when my clients one of them is doing a campaign or something, and say, here are actual numbers of how it turned out. Here's something that you can look at and measure and
it was worth it.
Learn from.
It wasn't worth
you know,
it.
or you actually get that information to feel like you can make your own judgment based on actual information, not did it line a kitty litter box. Right. I don't know.
Even if that person saw you on the newspaper ad, did they actually tell you that they saw, you know, like, did it line a kitty litter box?
Well, it takes a step out too. You know, when you do things like traditional advertising in newspapers, they see it in a newspaper, but they still have to go pick up the phone and call you, or pick up the computer and go to your website. And now that's happening a lot more. But doing the online, I mean, they're already on there. All they have to do is click a button. I mean, it's just so much easier. The less work, the better. The more you make people work, the harder it is, the more you lose them. So hello from Panama. Hello. Hi. I love it. And we get people from all over the world, just like somebody different every day. It's awesome. So let's see. Another question. Do you design things you create off the current market or your personal ideas? That's a good question.
Oh, for me?
Sure. You go ahead. You answer.
Only my ideas. I don't think I've ever built anything off a trend. That's just me personally. I have so many things in my head that I want to build that I could build forever and not ever look at a trend again or what's popular. That's how I approach as an artist, I guess. You know, I am on custom stuff. If someone sees something that they like and they bring it to me, then I would build it for sure. You know, if it worked out. But most of the time my clients are coming to me because they respect my expertise or my, you know, my aesthetic, and that's why they found me in the first place. You know, I have been approached before about, oh, can you build this whatever table? Sure, here's my price. Well, I just saw it on so-and-so for $2,000 cheaper. You probably should get it. Yeah.
Well, I think also too is like, I know there are a lot of people out there that, I'm not saying following trends is necessarily a bad thing. When it's good design and it's something that makes you happy, whatever.
Yep.
And if somebody comes to you with a custom order or something, the point is I think no matter what, when people come to you, they want your twist on things. They want your style. And that is, you know, I know there are woodworkers that will not say they're artists because they don't feel like they're creative people. They are. That's what I do for a career, is convincing them and showing them how creative they can actually be. But yeah, for us personally, there is a heavy creative aspect to it that, I mean, there have been times people have come to you and said, hey, I need a specific item, but I want it done in your style.
Right.
There's always like that meeting in the middle when it comes, you know, because you have to make something your customer needs or else they won't buy it. There's no point in buying it, right? So
yeah, I just, you know, that's what excites me about this and what I'm passionate about. So, you know, I certainly wouldn't, I'm not trying to be negative about, you know, following a trend, I guess, but I kind of just do me, and the people who, you know, the people who like it or the customers, and, you know, so like, I just never, I don't know, I don't think I've ever thought about following the trend. Honestly, it's just not.
Well, that wouldn't be your personality.
Well, that's,
you don't,
I guess.
You don't do that like in your regular everyday life, so it doesn't surprise me that you don't do that in your work. And I think both of us are just so creative that
I mean, really, the thought never, like, I never considered.
We want to make stuff we haven't seen, like that.
I want to make the trend.
Right. Like the reason I'm making this is because I have not seen it made, and I want it made. Okay. I want to make it. So, I think just that naturally driving us as artists tends to steer us away from trends. Now, that's not to say, like, he did cutting boards. You know, you mentioned that earlier. We've done coasters. We've done all sorts of stuff.
Oyster knives. I mean, yeah. Country, South Carolina.
I mean, it's you know, like...
Trendy might not even be... It's pretty much a staple, but it was still was...
It's not...
It is kind of... You know what I mean? It's still...
Like, if you live in the low country of South Carolina, you have to have an oyster knife in your house.
And, you know, they gain... and lose popularity in certain times, and maybe it was, you know, that could have been somewhat of a trend, but that was, you know, a big client approach with a big order, you know, or a couple of different ones.
The thing is like, we'll do anything custom as long as it works with what we want to do.
That's right.
You know, and don't get me wrong, we got bills to pay, so we're not, you know, we've cranked out custom bottle openers and things like that, and you know, to me, I view those types of projects as things. It's like Joseph's dad was a vet for a long time. And so the way he kind of broke his business down was, you know, you have those big things, your surgeries and emergency things and stuff like that comes through. But what pays your bills are the finger foods, the rabies shots, the distemper shots, the kind of the well visits, that regular stuff. So in our business, you know, people are going to be a lot more likely to buy a $50 bottle opener than they are a $5,000 table. That's not knocking what you do or your quality or anything like that. That is just what the customer needs and what the customer is going to buy.
That's right. I mean, and I'm not I haven't been in the woodworking scene for 30 years. I can't necessarily pick all my projects that I take on. So something's got to fill the holes. So,
but there's a way to meet in the middle and
right.
be like, this is a project that is paying my bills, and this is a way that I'm still doing it in a way that makes me happy and satisfied as a maker and an artist and as a creative person. There's a way to meet in the middle. It's difficult sometimes, but that's also kind of the fun part of the challenge, you know? It is kind of nerve-wracking when somebody comes to you and they're like, all right, give me a design for this. And you're like, okay, you know, it is nice to get like some feedback. Like, do you want something carved on it? Do you want something laser engraved on it? Do you want, you know, like stain this or the other? So, I mean, it can be nerve-wracking when they're like, we just want you to design this product in your style. And it's like, all right, shot in the dark. And sometimes you're way off. And sometimes it's like, yes, you nail it on the first try. But meeting in the middle with your clients, whether it's a custom piece of furniture, whether it's kitchenware, whether, you know, like, so yeah. So any other questions? We've been really like chatting it around today. Well, thank you. Good luck to you too. So we've had some good conversations, some good questions. So we'll hang out for a few more minutes. I know sometimes it takes a minute for what y'all ask us to come through on the chat on our end. There's a bit of a delay, so we'll hang out, see what's going on. What are we working on Friday? You've been down here working on the leg.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I can.
So kind of give us an update on where we're at.
So. So, cut out on you?
Oh no, it did good. It kept rolling. Thank goodness.
Well, I've got tape here, but never mind the tape. Yeah, I've been doing some faceting on the legs. God, you really can't see it much. But
You can see where the grain, right there.
Yeah, so just doing some detail work on these legs. Well, you can see the shadow. There's, where am I? I'm doing this, feeling it. There you go. Facets here on the front. Some on the side.
Seat's coming along nicely.
Seats coming along. Some detailing on the rockers. Yeah, I did my first sanding on the seat. So got, it was all off the spoke shave and the Travisher for a while. And I did the first kind of initial sanding. And the legs and stuff are getting, they're getting sanded as I go. The only thing left, or one thing left, is you can see the slotted holes on the sides of the middle stretchers.
Yes. Excuse me.
Those are for expansion and contraction. The seat will expand and contract across its width. So I'm gonna do a little counter bore into that slotted hole that's gonna accept a washer and a flathead screw, or not. Anyway, one that will allow it to travel in that little slot, and that will be the rest of the seat being attached. And so then, other than that, it's really just sanding and
Tidying up.
putting finish on it. So yeah.
Nice.
If you hadn't followed along and seen this, this is my rocking stool. So it's got a little flat in the front that will rock and then perch and sit flat. Yeah. Imagine this is on the ground. But yeah, so getting close. Still got to glue up the rockers. The individual sides are all glued up. What's left is the top stretchers and this bottom stretcher, gluing the two parts together. So yeah, that's what's left.
It's a stool, y'all.
It's a stool.
Not only that, it's a rocking stool.
It is a rocking stool. So, I mean, it'd be nice if, I could put it on my bench.
Your bench looks like my desk.
My bench. But as you can see, it's lots of stuff on it.
Plenty of room. Very spacious. All right, so let's see. Do you look for inspiration on projects you're creating, or does it come to you naturally? Love the design. Nice, good job. Thank you. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.
So, you want to talk on?
Yeah. So I'm always looking for inspiration, and it comes from a lot of different places. I think early on I looked at furniture, looked at tons of furniture, and so I still look at furniture, but when I'm looking for inspiration, so obviously when you've looked at something and it is in your mind, you have it there, hopefully, and that definitely influences what you're thinking about and your designs. Also, I mean, I have to say, like, it just, if I say it comes to me, it does come to me, but it comes to me when I'm looking or when I'm working.
It's not like you lay in bed and you're like,
no, oh, eureka. No, it inspiration finds you working for sure. And if it doesn't find me working, it finds me having to walk away from work because it's too jumbled in my mind, I guess. So I look for things like walking in the woods, bodies of water, things like that, like shapes of trees and limbs in the wind and shadows and stuff like that, honestly.
Seriously, like one time we were flying somewhere and the way the person in front of us had pulled down their window shade left this like little like curve shape,
like
and he was
silhouette.
like, my table leg.
Table leg, yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, I got it.
So you never know.
Never know.
Oh goodness, they're about to kick us off. We have 2 minutes left.
I've been kicked off.
I know, that's awesome.
Thanks, Instagram.
Well, hey, we've been on for an hour.
Okay.
So, you know.
We're not paying them, so. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so inspiration kind of, it does.
It definitely, it finds you looking and being open to getting it from wherever. Mm-hmm. I mean, insects, there's lots of stuff that, but even, just everyday items too. So just, I guess that's not really a super clear answer, but it really finds you being open to it and active with it, looking and being open to inspiration.
A daily creative practice, even just journaling, sketching, that, you don't have to be working down in the shop. Working just means working your brain.
That's right.
So yeah. Oh,
Thanks
you're
for the
welcome.
questions.
Yes, thanks for asking questions, y'all. This has been really fun. Sounds like R2 up there, and they know it's time. It's time.
Is nap time over? Has it ever started, guys? I don't think so. But it's over.
So yeah. Well, awesome. Well, again, we'll be back Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern here on Instagram Live, and we'll save this to YouTube so you can go back and yeah, we'll see you guys on Friday.